So now we get into a couple fun ones where we get to go even higher than the 4-foot consort. So the next instrument higher than the soprano is what we call the sopranino. The sopranino, of course, following the same FC tuning tradition, is tuned in F above the soprano. This recorder is very well accustomed to the modern day piccolo, has a lot of the similar range, but it was used quite a lot in the Baroque period. There are a lot of solos that are presumed to have been meant to be played on a sopranino recorder. When a recorder is called for, it was commonly called out as a flute recorder or a block flute or something similar. But many pieces actually started calling for what was translated as a little flute, which is something even higher, which would be a sopranino recorder. The most famous sopranino solos are by Vivaldi, the concertos 443, 444, and 445. Those are sopranino all the way. You can play them on alto, they sound just great, but there's just something about playing them on sopranino that just really sails and sounds beautiful. I cannot play them, so I'm just going to play you the Zelda theme again. But what's that little one, you ask? Huh? This little guy is called the Garklein recorder. It is the smallest recorder in the world. Garklein is a German word that translates to very little. Obviously, because, just look at it compared to the tenor. These two instruments are 2 octaves apart. This thing is tiny. And what normally happens on a Garklein is it's so small they have to set the holes offset from each other so you can actually fit your fingers on them. My fingers are still so big, I can barely fit them on here. This instrument didn't really exist back in the Renaissance time. It didn't exist in the Baroque time. It's more of a recent invention just to kind of expand on the range, the fingering, the technique of the recorders. It's mostly used for special effects and certain special instances in ensembles. And there are some modern composers who have written things for the Garklein. I can't even play it. It goes to my fingers are too big. I can't even play this thing. But it gets really high. So it's fun. I love having my Garklein. I don't use it that much, but it is just so fun to look at, and it really completes the high end of the family. I absolutely love it. So, but if you are able to play the Garklein, you can use a Garklein, a sopranino, a soprano, and an alto to make a 2-foot consort pitched 2 octaves above the human voice. Why you want to, I don't know. So as I'm talking about the 2-foot consorts and the 4-foot consorts, that begs to ask, is there an 8-foot consort? Yes, there is, because we have even larger recorders than the bass here. So when we say bass recorder, the bass recorder is actually a whole family of recorders. When we refer to this recorder here in F as part of the 4-foot consort, we can call it the bass. But as we refer it to the whole scope of bass recorders in general, this is known as the bassette, meaning the little bass. The next one in the series is the great bass in C. So this is pitched basically in the same range as the viola. The lowest note is 1 octave below middle C. I will do my very best to try and get this in the frame for you, but I am limited in that. So you're gonna get some of this, and there's the top, there's the middle, there's all the key work, there's the bell, I think, maybe, if it's showing up there, we'll see. So the great bass is the next largest bass in the series of the bass recorders. And this is how it sounds. So in an 8-foot consort, the great bass takes the place of the tenor line. So what's going to take the place of the bass line? So I have to give you a little bit of a different view here because I introduce you to the contrabass in F. This is pitched an octave lower than the bass in F. The lowest note F is the F at the bottom of the bass clef staff. That is an incredibly low note. And on a pipe of that size, it is just such a gorgeous sound, a gorgeous tone, and Kung really has made an amazing contrabass recorder here, as well as the great bass and the tenor and the alto and the soprano and the sopranino and the garkline. They make them all wonderful. So I apologize I can't get the whole thing in one shot here, but it's massive. This thing is literally taller than I am. It sounds at pitch, just like this. Never thought a recorder would play that low, could you? But when you get to this size, you can start hearing the relationships between the recorder pipe and the organ pipe, which I just love, because hearing that pipe organ with all those pipes combined together with all those different sizes, that's how you can put together a wonderful recorder ensemble like I do in the Recorder Arcade videos. So the full family of modern Baroque style instruments alternating tuning in FC, 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 all the way up, pitched at A440, which is the standard tuning pitch of today. All of these sizes of recorders, from the soprano all the way down to the contrabass, all existed in the Renaissance when consort playing was at its peak. It differs, though, that Renaissance recorders were tuned differently and tuned in multiple different ways. They were pitched at approximately A equals 466, which is about one full half step higher, or a semitone, than our standard tuning today. It was also common that back in the Renaissance, everything was based around the interval of a perfect fifth. So instead of tuning the instruments today like we have FC, 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 alternating fourths and fifths, starting from the contrabass, we started with F, and then we went up a fifth to C, so nothing there, but then the next one up, the bass, would be tuned a fifth up in G. The tenor would be another fifth up in D, which they also called this the voice flute, and then another fifth up to the alto in A, and yet another fifth up to the soprano in E. This would kind of blow my mind with your highest instrument being pitched in E and your lowest instrument being pitched in F. I think that would be a little awkward, but Renaissance musicians were amazing, so I'm sure they had no problem with it. But something that I find super interesting is that if you take a Renaissance recorder soprano in E, tuned at A equals 466, that will bring it up a full semitone. So your E will actually sound like an F, which tuned at 440 is the same pitch as the modern day Baroque style sopranino. Is that how we got the sopranino? I don't know, but I think it's kind of a cool coincidence, don't you? So common practices in consort playing is to play either with a 4-foot consort, an 8-foot consort, or combinations of both consorts together. A very common arranging tool is to use both consorts to create different sounds and textures within the music, which is what I do quite often when I put together Recorder Arcade videos. You can have the 4-foot ensemble by itself, followed by the 8-foot ensemble by itself, and then have both ensembles play together for really loud, strong, forceful passages where you want everything to really show through and shine. And those are really cool ways that you can use the instruments all the way from the smallest to the largest together in really awesome ensembles and great sounding sounds to sound in sound ways. So this practice of doubled consort I use quite often in my next piece coming up on the Recorder Arcade. So stay tuned for the next Recorder Arcade video and you'll have a fantastic example of what it sounds like to alternate the 4-foot and the 8-foot ensembles. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you all again so much for your support. So don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel. You can see the links to my Patreon down below to help support the Recorder Arcade, give you more educational videos and more fun video game music covers. And if you haven't seen them yet, go back and watch all of my old videos and like those and subscribe then if you still haven't subscribed, and you'll have more recorder knowledge and music than you'll know what to do with. So take care everyone, and we'll see you next time at the Recorder Arcade.